Welcome to the Live Well, Love Strong podcast. This morning, I'm very excited. I have a really special lady. I've met her a few times and she's amazing in person and also is just a wealth of knowledge. So, Mary Ann Hughes is the proud mother of sons on the autism spectrum. And after her own divorce, she was inspired to start special family transitions to help other parents navigate the overwhelm and complexities of divorce involving a child with special needs or complex needs. As a certified special needs divorce coach, mediator, and parenting coordinator, Mary Ann's mission is to help parents consider and advocate for the unique needs of their children while reducing the time, stress, and expense involved in divorce and co-parenting challenges. Mary Ann is proud to also be a speaker, author, she wrote a book, y'all, trainer, and support and educate other parents and professionals on special needs divorces. Oh my gosh, Mary Ann, it's so good to have you here. Good morning.
Good morning, Sarah. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, what a bio. What a bio. So how did you become a divorce expert? What kind of threw you into that area?
It's never something I planned for or intended, I guess, growing up, but my life's journey led me to that. So I was married for over 20 years when I unexpectedly faced divorce. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was something I had to figure out how to deal with and how to navigate because I saw that as my main um, my main goal in that was to make sure that my children, who are on opposite ends of the autism spectrum, were going to be taken care of during the process and after the divorce and life afterwards. And so I went through so much time, stress, and energy trying to figure out what to do and how to get a good result for my kids. And finally did get a good result for my family, but I thought it's kind of crazy to have to go through this much trouble and hard to find resources to help and people who know about this
Right.
area. So that's where I decided to take my knowledge and help other people turn that into a business venture for the first time. I had worked previously, but had been stay-at-home mom for 20 years. And this is my first entrepreneurship type of activity. And so it was scary, but I decided it's kind of crazy for people to have to recreate the wheel. And I want to make it
Yeah.
easier for other people going through these challenges.
Yeah, that's so good. I love that. And I love that you said that it was challenging and it doesn't have to be. And so you can share what you learned and help other moms. And you're doing that in the community. I can attest to that. So that's awesome. Can we talk a little bit about divorce with kids with complex needs? It's different than a divorce when you don't have a kiddo like that. So what are the statistics on divorce rates of couples who have children that have high needs or high medical complexities, and why is it a little different, or what makes it different?
Right, yeah. So there's debate about the actual number, but I've seen numbers as high as 80, even 87% of families that have a child with some sort of special need going through divorce. This can be when the children are young or even as adults.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of reasons behind that. But I always want to say it's never because of the child, because for whatever reason, the parents don't have the skills or desire to work on some issues perhaps in the marriage that are causing stress. And granted, having a child with extra needs definitely adds stress to the marriage, but some marriages are just not going to be able to withstand that. I
Yeah.
always try to help get people have support and make sure it's the right decision for them. I'm not here to advocate for divorce. I'm here to support you if that's the decision that you've come to and that's best for you and for your family.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's a good thing to put out. Why do you think? Well, you said also when the children are older, that happens as well. Why do you think that's the case? Just as the expert, I'm just curious. Why do you think once they're older, a family of a kid with complex needs would decide to get divorced?
Right. So I guess in a typical divorce, you have a lot of people who wait till the kids are graduating from high school to get divorced. And you have some of those
Mhm.
same dynamics that you would have any typical divorce happen in these divorces, same reasons for divorce. You have
Mhm.
infidelity, money issues, communication issues, things like that. But then you also have people not being on the same page about the child's disability and what that means and how it impacts them and how their role as a parent and a provider is going to be lifelong and what that means
Mhm.
for them. And some people um, just decide not to continue in that relationship.
Right.
But the goal
Yeah.
is for them, even if they don't stay together, to find
Mhm.
ways to support that child emotionally, caregiving wise, as well as financially. That becomes a big reason for conflicts in some of these
Yeah.
divorces about agreeing to the needs, understanding the needs, and then addressing those needs.
Okay, good. So where would someone who may be thinking about it, where would they go initially? What would be their first step? What would you recommend, the path that they take?
Right. So a lot of people think if they're going to divorce, the first step is to an attorney. And I would say that is not always the right answer. The
Hmm.
reason I say that is when we're first faced with divorce, whether it's something that we didn't expect or something that we're asking for, and a lot of times women are the ones initiating divorce.
Yeah.
But sometimes we go into it with a lot of emotion and we're not thinking clearly, and we spend a lot of energy on things that maybe aren't productive in our divorce. So my role as a divorce coach is to help people go from the emotion of divorce to the business of divorce. I've got a business background, and that's kind of how I approach things, even though it is a very emotional process. But you don't want to, share all your emotion and grief and use your attorney as a sounding board for that. There's definitely mental health professionals can help with that, and divorce coaches can help understand where you are now and where you want to go and help support you in that process. So some people ask, what's the difference between a mental health professional and a divorce coach?
Right. And a divorce coach.
Support. And so mental health professionals are great in terms of maybe dealing with past trauma, what led to the divorce. But as a coach, I'm here to focus on like, where are we now? What are your goals in divorce? What are your goals for your children? What do they need? And how can we work this in the divorce to help you get as much as you can and advocate for your child? So we're used to as say moms or caregivers, depending who's taking care, of the kids and being their advocate in school, for instance, in IEP meetings and so on. It's no different in divorce, in my opinion. We're there to advocate for our child, to be their voice in this process. And so, someone who has an intimate knowledge of what that child needs, it's their duty to reflect that and share that information as part of the divorce. And so, I help people figure out what to be more organized when they do have those attorney meetings. And I definitely advise getting an attorney, family law attorney who's experienced with special needs. But you want to
Hmm.
go to them as organized and as calmly as possible so that
Yeah.
your legal bills go down and they can best help you with what they do best, which is represent you legally.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I like a lot of things that you said. The first one was find a divorce coach and or a mental health therapist and work through the emotion part because you need to work on the business part with the attorney. And so, what are some of the business parts of divorce of a kid with some complex needs or special needs or medical complexities? What
Right. So you mentioned one of the reasons for divorce and a big consideration in a divorce involving some kind of child who will not be independent is exactly that, is that their needs are not just going to go away at age 18. They're going to need that ongoing support, whatever that might look like, for
Yeah.
we don't know how long, sometimes for a lifetime. And so each state handles things differently. So for instance, in
Hmm.
Texas, where we are, there's ability for lifelong, they call it indefinite child support. If a child is not going to be capable of self-support and be independent. And so that's something
Hmm.
to consider. Sometimes people don't know. I saw this other day in a Facebook post that they think it just has to be the guideline amount, and that's not necessarily the case. It can be above guideline amount. So, for instance, you may hear somebody talk about certain numbers for child support. I think that's all you can get, but you may be able to get
Hmm.
more. Of course, it depends on your situation and the resources of that family. But it's really important as part of the process to really look at what the costs are, what the needs are for that child, be able to break
Hmm.
those down and share that in discussions in with your soon-to-be ex-spouse, with your legal team, and whoever else is helping you to really get a good handle on that and have a good basis for your negotiations and your discussions.
Yeah, okay, that's a good answer. What happens, or what would you recommend to a mom that is facing challenges with the partner on co-parenting and or any, any kind of like get along stuff? What would you recommend if you were the divorce coach of a mom like that?
Right. So in looking at it as a business deal, right? So
Right.
how would we treat a fellow coworker? That's how we want to look at the spouse. We don't want to um, show emotion or not that
Hmm.
you can't show emotion, but we want to be careful how we do it. We want to be always professional and
Hmm.
just stick to the facts, right? So we want to. There's a framework called BIFF, which is brief, informative, friendly, and firm, and that's the way we want our communications to be with our either soon-to-be ex-spouse or co-parent and whoever else is supporting us in this process. That way, we hear the message as opposed to the emotion of what we're asking for.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. Okay, so what are some other challenges that you think um, a mom and or anybody who is considering a divorce or is going through a divorce with a complex kid, what are some other challenges that you can think of that they need? Just for our listeners, but I'm hoping they all come run to you and hire you and say, I need help, and that you can, coach them and give them that information. But if they're just listening now, what are some things that they should be thinking about, or, challenges that could come up that they could start maybe preparing in advance for?
So yes, a divorce is a very emotional process and it's overwhelming. And so we want to think about what is important in divorce and how would we think about in this process. Uh,
Mhm.
Part of it is looking at it as a life care plan, as some people refer to it.
Mhm.
So this is not something that we're going to just do one time, only think about it when they're young and not think about the future. Because
Mhm.
as we talked about, there's ongoing needs. So we have to think about as part of the divorce, how do we make sure that that's included in the discussions and documented as part of the decree. So whether in terms of child support or parenting plan or what that looks like, how the child's going to spend time between homes, what how money is set up and how that child will be supported in the future. For instance,
Yeah.
one really important thing is to make sure to maintain their eligibility for government benefits. And so
Good. I would say
right now, the cap on the money a child can have in their name, whether it's a young child or an adult child, is $2,000 if they're either receiving or will be receiving government benefits. So we have to be really careful how things are structured. And so,
that.
in addition to the other professionals we talked about, there's also estate estate planning attorneys who are familiar
Mhm.
with special needs. There's also
Mhm.
financial planners who have that specialty, and those are important people to work with to make sure that things are set up correctly so that your child is protected for the future. Because that's what keeps parents up at night is what's going to happen to me and to my kids as
Yeah.
part of this and in the future. And so we want to make sure that we're comfortable making decisions and making plans for the future so that we're not just looking at the divorce, trying to get that done as quickly as possible, but also
Yeah.
thinking about this in terms of the big picture. And that's the mistake I see a lot of people make and then regret as they rush into making decisions, coming to agreements not really in their or their child's best interest. So I would say kind of slow down,
Yeah.
consult with different professionals, think about it, take more time to really reflect on
Mhm.
that, and then make those decisions that are going to be lifelong. Not that you can't modify in the future, but that's going to require a lot more legal time and money and so on.
Yeah, that is a really good answer. Okay, so I heard you talk just a little bit about it, but you didn't say it out loud. A supplemental trust for your child, so that it protects them, so that they can still receive medical benefits. Is that something that you do, or do you coordinate with people and send someone if they're looking to create a trust for their kid before they go through a divorce, so that they can get it all right?
Right. So I'm not a legal professional, so I don't give legal advice and I can't create those documents, but definitely there's some great special needs estate planning attorneys that can do those trusts. So there's two kinds of trust. There's a third party special needs trust, and there's a first party one. And the third party one, this is all very confusing, and I know it's overwhelming. That's why you try to get as much information
Yeah.
and knowledge and educate yourself about
Right.
things
Yeah.
going into this. So the third party one is where that would be the recipient of, say, life insurance or inheritance or gifts, things like
Hmm.
that. And the
Hmm.
first party one, especially when you have a child over 18 receiving child support, is that's where you want the money to flow into. So once again, it's not in the child's name, because once they're 18, that becomes a child, that's considered the child's money. And so you have
Right.
to be really careful with that. Some people think they can't get child support and government benefits, but that's not true. So as long as it's set up in the right way, it's documented in the decree, because when you apply for programs, say for Social Security, they're going to look at those pages of the divorce decree and make sure that that is in there.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Okay. Um, and I'm glad you said that. Like we have to go slow, we have to be thorough, we have to be thoughtful, we have to think big picture, long term, protect our kids, what's in their best interest. What would you say to a mom who is home and working with their kids, and so they don't have a lot of money or can't really afford to pay for, a really good attorney? Are there options for those kind of moms out there and those kind of families?
Sure. So what I would say, once again, not legal advice, but
Yeah.
when you're married, you are it's community property. So whatever has been earned as a
Mm-hmm.
couple during the
Mm-hmm.
divorce, prior to divorce, since the day you're married till the day you divorce, is community property. So you can spend money that maybe you don't have direct access to, right? So you have to maybe work with a lawyer to make that happen for you to have access to those funds. Maybe sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you're not a joint owner on the account or whatever, but doesn't mean it's not your money. So just want people to be aware of that. And as part of
Yeah.
the divorce process, there's several parts to it. One of them is the division of the community property. There's also
Mm-hmm.
sole property, which maybe you had prior to marriage or inheritance, things like that. So that stays with each person. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's the part about um, child support and things like that. So there's kind of two aspects of that. So I took it as a um, multifaceted approach in my divorce, was trying to figure out, okay, what do I need to do to figure out what we have together in
Mm-hmm.
the community, and
Mm-hmm.
then how we're going to divide that, and then focus also on the children's needs, is what do they need and how can we make that happen.
Yeah, that's good. That's so good. This is very informative. Thank you so much for helping and for coming on and saying all these things. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you think um, our listeners should know or should have some information about before they dive into to divorce?
Yeah, well, definitely, see if it's the right decision for you.
Right.
And so I want to say some people tend to maybe not get divorced or think that they can because of the financial constraints, because
Hmm.
they're worried about the impact it's going to have on the kids. But I can
Hmm.
tell you there's kids will tend to do better. There's studies about this when the parents are in separate homes, and then things are calmer and less conflict around that child, because the last thing you want to do is have a child be in a stressful environment where parents are fighting and arguing, things like that, and then the child is going to absorb that. Even if the child is not verbal, they can still understand, they can sense what's going on, and it causes stress, anxiety, and behaviors for them as well. And so
Hmm.
if you can have uh, as much as possible, we want to try to do this as peacefully as we can.
Right.
And it's not
Yeah.
always the case, but when you do get divorced, you want to co-parent as peacefully as you can. You talked about that a little bit earlier. And so there's
Yeah.
things to do to help the child transition, to get them used to the idea of divorce, and then how to support them when they're in different homes as well. And so just because you're getting divorced doesn't mean you're not going to be seeing the other person or needing to parent together, communicate. So that's really important, is to be able to keep those lines of communication open, or find a way to do that, to share information, so that the child is not stuck in the middle and feel like they're having to take sides or anything like that. Because a child sees themselves as half mom and half dad. So we don't want to ever say anything negative in front of them about the other parent, because then they might see that as a reflection on themselves.
Yeah. Oh, I love that you said that. I remember when I was going through my divorce, that's what my therapist said as well. Of like, remember your kids are 50% you and 50% your ex. And so if you say anything negative about your ex or yourself, your kid is internalizing that and taking that on, whether they show it or say it out loud or not. And so I think that was really nice that you just said that. Yeah, that's good. Okay, Mary Ann, I want to know just a little bit more about you now as a person. Um, what do you do currently, and what have you done, if there's something in your practice, to find joy and love in your life and in this work? Because this is a hard topic. This is sticky. And so how, and and you're dealing with people that are, there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of charge, and energy involved in that. So what do you do personally and with your boys to maintain joy and love and to find it in your current life, and then what you're doing to help other moms?
Yeah, I appreciate asking that question. So I will say it brings me joy to help these parents because this is a very stressful time. And I know I've been there, I know how hard it is. And so I get joy by helping people, even though every situation looks different and my approach may be different in terms of what they need and how I help them, which I have the flexibility to do, which is wonderful. Um, but if I can see them grow as people and find their worth and feel comfortable advocating for themselves and their kids, that brings me a lot of joy. But
Yeah.
for my joy, yeah, I spend a lot of time in self development, getting
Mm-hmm.
to get to the place where I am now. It wasn't overnight. It was a
Mm-hmm.
process from even during my divorce. I tried to fill my mind and my thoughts with positive things, get educated, and so still to this day, I take a lot of so many training courses, do um, either read books, listen to audiobooks, or whatever it is, just to fill my time and have the energy where I'm um, doing things in a positive fashion where I can then support other people as well as my family. So one example I'll give you is my son who's higher functioning. He saw the things I was doing as I was getting divorced and setting up my business. He said, "Mommy, I'm so proud of you. You're a different person than you were before divorce." And
Wow.
so that's I
Yeah.
think the important thing is to be a role model for your kids.
Mm-hmm.
They see what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and so we
Right.
want to portray that in the best light possible. They see you as an example. But the
Mm-hmm.
things I'd like to do with my family um, is it's an adjustment to be a single parent and to maybe
Yeah.
take on some adventures. But we've gone on trips recently where before it was a scary thing. We used to do we just do it with a family or with helpers
Mm-hmm.
or caregivers.
Yeah.
Just recently, we've taken some trips on our own, done cruises, done airline trips, done driving trips, and yeah, it's fun. And so we get to enjoy ourselves. Granted, it could be, you know, more sometimes a lot of work to have those type
That's
of
right. Yeah.
experiences, but it's a great way for us to kind of change our routine and have new experiences and have that kind of joy too.
Yeah, and sharing those adventures together. I really love that. I really love that. Okay. Well, I am all out of questions. If there's anything else that you think our listeners should know, let's say it now. And if not, you guys, I'm going to put all of Mary Ann's information on our show page and the notes. And then I'm also going to post it on social media so you can find her and reach out to Mary Ann. And you do an initial consultation, right? Before they.
I do, yeah. I have lots of things like I said on social media. People can kind of get to know me and kind of what I do and share my message. But yeah, definitely happy to do a complimentary consultation, learn more about their situation, discuss ways I can help, and then I can help with one-on-one coaching. I have a little mini course that's out there. I have different things that I'm planning for the future as well. So definitely, I'm here to support you. Usually, I support people as mostly as moms, but sometimes that's too, and sometimes both. I want to
Yeah.
out there that even though as a coach I'm really helping one parent, but I'm also trained as a mediator and a parenting coordinator. So sometimes I have both parents come to me, and so to try to come to an agreement or get on the same page for some basic things about how we're going to help the kids, share this
Mhm.
information with the kids, and support them in the future. And even other, one couple came to me for planning for future transitions and things going
Yeah.
on in life. So I've seen it all, right, from when my kids were little to all the education process to the transition age
Mhm.
things. So I can provide different perspectives on things
Mhm.
and help
Yeah.
people come to agreements to keep their situation and their future situations as amicable and positive as we can.
Yeah, I like that. And y'all, I can attest that Mary Ann is one of the kindest people I've met. And she has a calming presence and she's a good listener. And so reach out and get some information, get some guidance, have someone help you navigate this process so that, like Mary Ann said, long term, uh, you and your kids are safe and you have the best, situation possible. So,
Yeah. So I
yeah.
said, people stay strong and you can do it.
Yeah, we can do it. You can do it. Yeah. And together we're doing it. So, all right. Well, thank you so much. Happy Fun Friday. And I loved having you on the podcast. I appreciate your time and your expertise and just what like an amazing mama you are. So, yeah, thank you for that.
Same to you.